The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
Number one, I'm not sure how that's Hello there, heroes! I'm the Pumpkin Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Beast Morphers 2.0 episode review. This is not a Halloween special. Got more than a few comments on that after my previous review. Excuse my insane confusion. Making Bad is the 22nd episode of Beast Morphers by the production numbers. Making Bad is a clip show, and Making Bad aired on that particular Saturday in October that Nickelodeon loves to choose as their own super special Halloween. Oh, and this episode is primarily about the villains, a villains-themed clip show airing right before Halloween. How in the world could I have gotten so confused as to think that this would be a Halloween episode? But no, Making Bad is not a Halloween episode, and it turns out that Beast Morphers 2.0 does not have holiday clip shows. My reasoning as to why is that they took the 21st episode and gave that to Boxed In, a sports special that was meant to coincide with the Olympic Games before they were canceled by COVID. So, if they wanted to do clip shows for both Halloween and Christmas, they would have to take an episode from the main story 20 episodes, which is not something I think that they were interested in doing. So, since they had to choose between doing one or the other, they just decided to do neither, and we've just got a regular clip show. However, I have been promised a pretty nice framing device and a clip show that's not just taking a look at the 10 or so past episodes that came right before it. So let's take a look at an episode that is not a Halloween special, but is still the 22nd episode of Beast Morphers 2.0 by production numbers, Making Bad. Please make sure you're subscribed to my channel to see all of my videos. Ring the bell, get your notifications set up so you're notified of whenever I post brand new videos. And if you'd like to lend any financial support to my channel, please consider checking me out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos. The episode begins in the nameless dimension. Note about this, I had a commenter on my previous review tell me that this place is officially called the Crystal Dimension. I'm sorry, but that name has never been said on screen even once. The previous hideout of the villains was officially called the Cyber Dimension, but this place as of yet does not have a name.
Get on with it!
Getting your bit out of the way early, hey MPG? We have a development that honestly I saw coming, but I still think it's pretty well written. Evox says they need to reanimize more evil soldiers to bolster their army. Scrozzle makes kind of a risky point to make with reanimized soldiers standing around him. The ones that they've reanimated so far really haven't been all that great. Of course, he's got a plan for that. For reasons that are assuredly based entirely on strong scientific research, if a monster is reanimized using strong gemstones, such as diamonds, that monster will come back in a different form, stronger than it was before. Scrozzle has already created Thieftron, a Robotron that is stealing diamonds from jewelry stores in Coral Harbor, and the monster has already brought back a nice little haul of them. Scrozzle then pulls a strange metal key that he calls Ranger Records directly out of his tailpipe and says that they can watch some old clips to figure out who they should reanimate first. They start off by watching clips of Korag, the Night Wolf from Mystic Force, and I was immediately reminded of something that Linkara said in his History of Power Rangers video on Super Mega Force, an idea that if they wanted to use that Sentai-only Ranger team footage, that they could introduce a character that was from one of those teams and give us some flashbacks of the old Sentai footage. You could explain the lower film quality and different resolution by putting the footage on a monitor that has different borders on it. And that's exactly what they did here. Genius! The clips are shown on Scrozzle's computer, which we see on the screen, and it has special borders to account for the 4:3 aspect ratio. That's just such excellent attention to detail. Anyway, everyone is impressed with Korag until Roxy points out one teeny tiny little problem. Korag turned good and became a Power Ranger, the Wolf Warrior. And that is another point of kudos to Hasbro. Wolf Warrior's status as a Power Ranger is debated in the fandom. Trust me, I'm old enough to remember that debate when it was originally happening. But here, when Wolf Warrior morphs, someone in the crowd with Evox goes, "He's a Ranger!"
Well, that settles that.
Evox is very irritated by this, saying that they have to choose carefully or they're going to answer to him. He then leaves them without any supervision. Moving on, the Rangers are at the Riptide Gym getting a smoothie or whatever it is they do when they see Zoe's mom on the TV doing a news report about the diamond thefts. Ravi immediately thinks that Evox is responsible, even though Nate points out that that doesn't make the first bit of sense. You see, Sherlock Ravi has realized that the stores are getting hit in a pattern. A, B, C. And of course, there's one that starts with D as well, so the main three head over there with Nate and Steele staying behind because Nate and Steele are staying behind. Number 1. I don't understand why the pattern automatically means that Evox is behind this. Number 2. If Evox is behind a plan with such a simple pattern to it, I'd see that more as the flag for a trap. Back over with the villains, Roxy has got all of this under control. They need to find a villain who was evil to the core and never once redeemed by the forces of goodness. And Roxy knows just the girl, the princess of evil herself, Astronema.
You're stupid.
Yeah, swing and a miss there, Roxy, as Astronema was of course also redeemed by goodness. Blaze is the one who points this out, saying that they learned that in that Ranger history class. Which means that history class was probably taught before Nate became a Ranger, even though I'd imagine that the newer Rangers would go through it as well. So that sort of forgives him for not knowing that monsters can grow, although, I mean, if you've been alive on Earth for any point in the past 25 years, freaking duh. A couple of quick comments on the clips, because this is the first time since Legacy of Power we've gotten this far-reaching of a Power Rangers clip show. The audio quality is actually good. They've mixed in new battle music, but the fight dialogue still sounded pretty good. At first, this is a point we're going to get to later. However, specifically during Astronema's clips, I realized some weird visual glitching was in place, mainly with shadows on faces. Oh well, I guess old footage presents challenges one way or another. Alright baddies, listen up! We really have to buckle down and find a villain here that was never redeemed by the power of goodness. One that never assumed or reassumed a human form. One that was just a rotten monster to the core forever. Scrozzle's here to save the day with his own suggestion. Lord Zed.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
But interestingly here, they don't point out that Zed was redeemed and transformed by the power of the Z-Wave, but disqualify him because he would likely betray Evox, as demonstrated when they gave the Machine Empire a bomb disguised as a present. I do understand why that would upset Scrozzle, a robot himself, but otherwise, evil's gonna evil, dude. That's more of a qualification than a disqualification. Betrayal is a risk with anyone you revive. You were going to betray Ryjack!
Villains are stupid.
I know, right?
And here's where we get to the issues I was hinting at with the vocal lines. Do you remember in Legacy of Power where there were some really weird audio distortions that especially showed up in the Zeo footage? Well, it's Power Rangers Zeo once again pointing out weird audio issues. In this case, it turns out that all of the dialogue in all of the clips was actually redubbed. My best guess as to why is that there was some kind of rights issue with the background music. Apparently, Saban's music library doesn't belong to Hasbro, but instead to Sony for some reason. And they couldn't replace the background music without replacing the vocals themselves.
Moving right along.
Meanwhile, the three Rangers are scoping out the jewelry store when indeed they see the door open, but nobody walk out. Zoe uses some infrared binoculars to indeed see Thieftron. The three Rangers get out of the car, do a badass line walk, and then opening credits. Thanks. And apparently that line walk was so badass we needed to see it again after the commercials. The Rangers give chase, Robbie eventually using binoculars and a blaster to shoot Thieftron and make it visible. It runs off, but Devin uses his cheetah speed to run up and snatch the diamonds away. Thieftron admits that Scrozzle needs 1,000 diamonds, and Devin says that he needs 0 Thieftrons. Not his best one-liner, admittedly. The Rangers get a full-length morphing sequence, and then go Beast X mode, getting a full-length sequence of that.
Stretch it out! Stretch it out! Stretch it out! Stretch it out!
How about another amazing fight with another pathetic payoff? Thieftron tries to fly away, but Zoe uses her ability to jump on the air to get ahead of Thieftron and kick it back down towards the ground. Ravi uses his ability to manifest heavy objects to smack Thieftron with a big concrete pipe. Seriously, ouch. Devin then calls for the Ultra Bow, fires one rather small-looking energy arrow, and the thing explodes. The Rangers head back to the lab, blah blah, Ravi was right, even though alphabetical scheme equals Evox still really doesn't make any sense. And would you believe it? It just so happens that there is another jewelry store in Coral Harbor that starts with the letter E. Well, not really, but we're going to get to that in a minute. So I think it turns out, from what I heard, that among his campaign promises to force insurers to cover Coral Harbor citizens and to increase spending on city repair, Mayor Daniels also promised that the city's jewelry stores would follow an alphabetical naming scheme.
That was not funny.
Scrozzle gets Poisandra to stop barking at Sledge long enough to tell them that Thieftron has been destroyed, so now there's nobody to steal more diamonds. Poisandra and Curio sneak off to go steal the diamonds for themselves. Meanwhile, this is a clip show, so we need to get back to reanimating a villain. Blaze is making the suggestion this time and suggests the Psycho Rangers, holding up one of the data cards. I'm not really sure that that's a weapon, so I don't really know why Ryjack had it, not to mention the fact that the data card held the Psycho Rangers, not the other way around. But what I find funnier is that Blaze has once again selected a villain that was redeemed by the power of goodness. Okay, redeemed by the power of goodness might be a little strong in their case. No longer evil is what I'm saying. What's that? The Psycho Rangers were evil to the core and they were never once redeemed? I'm afraid you're wrong, heroes. And trust me, I don't really like thinking about this particular work of fiction, but in the Boom Studios graphic novel, The Psychopath, Corone worked with the Psycho Rangers and turned them from psychotic villains into questioning anti-heroes. So that's another swing and a miss, Blaze. But the comics aren't canon to the TV show! The transportal device that Tyler used last week, and Tommy's son JJ would like to have a word with you. Now, they're only able to reanimate one villain right now, and as it turns out, I think it's the last one they're going to be able to do, but I'll get to that later. So they focus on Psycho Red specifically, but Roxy eliminates him because of his obsession with fighting Red Rangers, which got him destroyed by Leo and Andros. I guess they know that the Dino Charge Rangers have paid a visit recently, so fighting 2 Red Rangers would be a bit of a concern. Anyway, this was the next point where I realized the changes in the dubbing and they became really noticeable. I've started doing this thing where I tend to live tweet while I'm watching episodes for review, and I mentioned this when it happened, and we started digging down to what I think the issue was. If you look at this episode on IMDb, a number of former Ranger actors are credited as doing voice work. You don't credit actors for doing voice work if clips of theirs from previous appearances are used in a new episode. Some of the actors were brought back in to redub their own lines. But it was only the New Zealand actors who were brought back in. Any of the roles that were done by non-Kiwis, Rita, Prince Sprocket, Leo, Andros, etc., were dubbed by the closest thing they had on hand in New Zealand. As Linkara and others have said, voice work can be done over the telephone. So this is really puzzling to me. Someone on Twitter replied to me saying this and said something about a New Zealand tax credit if a production uses like 100% New Zealand actors. But really? Hasbro would really have that probably rather small tax credit and have us all wince over hearing some lady do, and no disrespect to her, I'm sorry, but a pretty terrible Rita Repulsa impression instead of just paying Barbara Goodson to do it over the phone?
No, 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 no!
Anyway, Grid Battle Force detects a Gigadrone coming in, and Nate and Steel head out to deal with that. Meanwhile, Poisandra and Curio arrive at Elite Diamond Manufacturing, not even a jewelry store, and head inside, where the Rangers spring their trap. Fury and Wrench teleport in, chiding Poisandra for running off without Sledge's permission, and up until this point, I wasn't entirely sure that Fury had been revived. I'm sure we saw him fighting one of the Dino Charge Rangers in that previous episode, but yeah, for some reason it just didn't register. By the by, when Poisandra says, "A lady can do whatever she pleases," Devin says, "You're not a lady, just another monster."
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Now, my reaction isn't as shocked as that cutaway gag would make it seem, but yeah, Devin knows that there's life on other planets. It's pretty judgmental to say that Poisandra isn't a lady just because she doesn't look like a human. Anyway, Nate and Steel form the Striker Megazord during the commercials, but Thieftron pulls a vanishing act, stealing their blasters and using them against them. Hey now! Nate uses the Beast X King activator, which you may know of as the Beast X King Morpher from the toy line, to summon the King Zord. It attacks Thieftron and gets the blasters back, and Nate drops a line that is better than any of the puns and little one-liners Devin's been using this season. That's how a lion protects its pride. Striker Hyperblast, and that's over with. Meanwhile, the 3 Beast Morphers Rangers are honestly handling the 4 baddies pretty well, having donned their Beast X mode armor once again. But then the 4 baddies combine their weapons for some kind of shared blast that knocks the Rangers out of that mode. Nate and Steel show up because of TV show timing, and the fight resumes. Fury fights Devin, Wrench fights Robbie, and I would criticize the show about having Zoe fight Poisandra because girls, am I right? But she's also fighting Curio, and you might remember that Curio beat Chase last week, so I think she's got the tougher job for sure. Yet another anticlimactic end to a pretty good fight, although I did like the symmetry of having the Striker Morphers on the left, the Beast X Blasters on the right, and the Ultra Bow for Devin in the middle. And all 4 of the baddies are completely blown up, and destroyed, and gone.
That was easy.
Under orange skies, Sledge is devastated to have lost Poisandra, again, and the others try to console him. But in the meantime, Evox has made his decision. A villain strong enough to beat the Rangers, who was evil to the core and never gave in to the forces of goodness. Scrozzle, show us Goldar! So, this is an interesting choice. And okay, let's get this out of the way right now. Yes, demands of the Sentai footage. I get that. But I'm saying in context, this is an interesting choice. Evil? Check. Strong? Oh, absolutely. Was he ever a good guy? No. He did lose his memory once and become a maid, but he was turned to dust by the Z-Wave and not redeemed, rotten to the core. So why am I not saying this is a fantastic decision? And why did I go from 3 to 4 there for some reason? The disqualifier this time is failure. Goldar was not a very successful general. I'm not saying that Goldar was weak. I'm not saying that Goldar was unthreatening. But Goldar has a laundry list of failures on his record. Again, we're not talking about the footage. I know what's coming in the footage even if I haven't seen the American episodes. I'm just saying, think about writing this without the footage in mind. And let's just say that Ryjack has access to an entire villain's Ranger Vault of weapons. Why not revive someone like Megazord? Sure, Anton Mercer was turned good, but Megazord was separated from Anton Mercer, was completely evil to the core, very, very threatening, very, very successful. Would be a wonderful villain to revive. I'm just saying that there were stronger, better, more successful choices than Goldar. Heck, at the very least, revive Lothar and let's add some comedy to this thing.
This is the most fun I've had all season!
The episode then points to the sky and goes, cow, because there's a giant twister. They watch a very short and, yes, redubbed clip of Goldar's very first fight with the Megazord, and then Goldar is revived in a new form using up the diamonds that Thievtron was able to retrieve. And by the way, Scrozzle says that the gun is going to burn out after this, so it is very likely the last one they'll be able to revive, at least in this process, I guess. Sledge insults the antique, but Goldar kicks him back hard. Evox then orders Goldar to destroy Sledge, and he does. A fan favorite main villain destroyed by the other villains in cold blood.
Baby, now we got bad blood. Hey!
No, cold blood. Although I suppose it is bad blood too. By the way, Goldar, who by the way is credited on IMDb as Goldar Maximus, is voiced by Adrian Smith, and full credit to him. As a redux of the voice, I think it was a good enough impression, and I actually liked it. It was a believable enough impression of Goldar, unlike Rita, especially with the different form. Anyway, back at the base, Ravi puts everything together about the diamonds and the reviving of the monsters, but the Rangers treat it as just a possible theory, Devin equally theorizing that this may have just been Poisandra to begin with because she likes shiny things. The episode ends with kind of a stupid gag. Devin has to practice for a gaming tournament and asks who wants to get their butt kicked. Steele volunteers but says to be careful, his butt is made of metal. It was a groan-worthy gag. I mean, shut up, Ben and Betty! Wait a minute, Steele said that. Ben and Betty... No, they when they went back to the no, they weren't, and then they came. Ben and Betty aren't in this episode at all. Episode 22, Making Bad. Pros: one of the best plot-integrated clip shows of this era, still creatively using footage, and a fun look back at the villains of the franchise. Cons: the redubbing kept taking me out of it, the core story itself isn't up to much, and Sledge's destruction is disappointing. I was really pleasantly surprised. You might say that I was expecting a trick, but instead got a treat. Making Bad gets 4 shades out of 5. And now we have nearly reached the moment. One that we have been anticipating since we heard that Go Busters was getting adapted, and that we've been teased about forever. Heroes, let's take a peek at the 13th episode of Beast Morphers 2.0, Grid Connection. Devin becomes dismissive just as a new threat emerges, so now he must get the help of an experienced legend to destroy Evox's newest recruits and his latest creation. Boy oh boy, does that teaser not do justice to the amazingness that is to come. And by the way, the Rangers might just not be the only ones teaming up for that. But for now, that's going to do it for another Power Rangers Beast Morphers 2.0 episode review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. Now that the video's done, you can let me know what you thought of this episode as well as my review of it down in the comments below. And while you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button and let me know that you enjoyed this video. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you.